Well, it's not so much a toy as it is a weapon because it is intended for fighting, even though we don't really fight with swords, at least not here, not in this country or in this time. But at one point in time, the intention of this was to kill your opponent, and now it's just something really cool to have. So welcome back to Nain's Shorts. For those of you who are continuing watching, thank you so much for your support. For those of you who are new, please like and subscribe, share, notification button, all that jazz, because every little bit helps the channel. Eventually we will get back to Konversations, but at the very least, we'll try to give you a Nain Shorts every week. So for those of you who do not know, Rick is still healing from his surgery a few weeks back. Spinal surgery is nothing to laugh about, except I do laugh at him and his pain all the time. So if you want to reach out and make fun of him, by all means, please do. Good humor and everything else is welcome. Thank you very much for that. But back to what I was just playing with, this ginunting, this Filipino sword has a curved edge, and it actually has a blade the last 4 inches on the back side. So when we do our stabs, we actually come up and cut. So you can cut on the back end as well as the front. That's where the floretas then become useful. As you cut back and you cut forward again. But that's the intention of this blade. That's why it is designed the way it is. Has a very prominent puño, so you can also attack with it. The scabbard itself is tied with little bits of, what is that, straw? So you can cut through it and continue fighting. So you don't have to. This one is actually held by more than just a straw, because we're not trying to cut through and attack people with it. It's mostly for show. But it's a lot of fun, and this is a live blade, so it's just really fun to play with. But the reason why we're talking about this blade right now is because it has an intended purpose. It was created for a certain thing, and while we're not using it for that purpose now, it is designed for it. And it made me start thinking about the intent that goes into our training and all the things that it can possibly mean as we progress through it all. Recently, we've been having a couple classes, or I've been having a couple classes with some of our students. And I've given them certain criteria to accomplish throughout the class. And something that we haven't touched on is the intent, the commitment that they had to what they were doing, or rather the commitment that they needed to accomplish the task. One of the tasks was to attack my weak side and stay there, not let me move away and not move away from that area and still be able to continue to attack. Another one was to manipulate the opponent in front of you. How do you keep their brain from stumbling, from thinking what they're supposed to be thinking and attacking you, but rather being on the defensive and wondering what the hell is going on? Both of those tasks required deep intent. It means they had to really commit to what they were doing physically to get that response, to get that reaction from the opponent themselves. But where does the intent begin? Where in your training does it start developing? From the very beginning, in one of the very few first classes that we had in Danny's Bladed Mind was we did a simple drill. It's a 1 in 11 drill, which is just right and left. We are chopping, breaking the full swing of the strike right here because we are close quarters. So the opponent or the training partner is within hand's reach of you. So in order to accomplish that, we drop our hands, but the intent behind that particular exercise above everything else is to hit the person's face in front of you. Now, this is like second or third class. There are new students. We ask them to pair up with somebody, whether it's one of the instructors or one of the new students along with them, and hit each other in the face. Now, that sounds messed up, right? It's only the third class and we're already telling them, hit the guy in the face. Focus on hitting the guy in the face. And there's a few reasons behind that. First of all, we're training how to fight. So we should also train on how to hit the opponent in front of us. And the thing about it is that the reason why there are no injuries in these classes is because both sides are doing the same thing. So as I'm coming across this way, they're coming across on my left side. So they meet in the middle. The sticks hitting each other isn't the intent. It's just what happens because we're mirror opposite to each other and we're both trying to do the same thing using the same movements. But there's a huge difference because inevitably it happens to every new student. They go for the stick. They automatically block the stick out of fear because they know that the person in front of them is trying to hit them in the face. So they automatically will direct towards the stick, and that has to be corrected. It can't be allowed to go on because then they get comfortable swinging at a stick. What if the stick is not there, but they're swinging at it? Now they're missing completely, and they're not even attacking their opponent. They're hitting empty space. So from the very beginning, we get them to focus on the idea that you're hitting the face. There are other added benefits to it, along with building proper mechanics, making sure that you stay in a strong position at all times and that you're constantly wary of what's coming in front of you. So there are other benefits to it, but intent then becomes the idea that you're always focused on what you're trying to accomplish. And in a fight, that's to stop the other person from harming you. Oftentimes, having to harm them just enough to make sure that they can't continue attacking you. And let that be that. Walk away, whatever the case may be, whatever your other teachings you want to throw in there, but you have to have that focus because eventually there are no sticks. We train with sticks to develop the mechanics, to understand angles, to so many of the benefits along in the Filipino martial arts that come from using sticks. However, you hear it often from FMA practitioners. You don't walk around with sticks. You don't walk around with a blade in your hand, although I do believe it would be legal. I think so, right? No? Maybe? Look into that. But we don't walk around with them. Some people carry knives and we train that as well, but mostly you're gonna have your hands and that's it. Which means that eventually everything that you do here is intended to be translated to empty hands. The same movements now become the movements of your hand, and intentionally we develop the mechanics so when you take the stick away, you're still hitting hard, you still have control, and you're focused on making contact with your opponent because then it becomes a punch. As the punch is coming, it needs to be directed towards the opponent, towards your training partner. Because one, you're also training yourself to make contact, but also as a beneficial thing to the person you're training with, you're giving their brain a good sense of what a punch is really like. Because if you constantly miss, you just go lazily and put it out there. Well, then that's what they're going to get used to responding to. They're not going to get used to responding to a real punch. And there's a few schools that actually emphasize this idea. Sure, everything is slow, but the intent is still there. Even though I'm not throwing any power, my mentality is to make contact, to be close enough to hit the target and go through it. So then my partner can respond appropriately. I'm not trying to hurt them, but my intention is there. My intention is to throw a proper punch that if we were to go full bore, if I was really meaning to hurt this guy, then I'm throwing a real punch. It's coming at them. Just as when I'm striking with true intent to reach my target, to give them that sense of, holy crap, I need to do my technique right. Now, I've heard stories back in the day, especially in Kaju Kempo. If you weren't doing it right, they'd lay into you. And then you would learn either very fast or you would quit. That you need to do the things properly. Now, that was back then. Personally, I feel that if you have the control, if you have the sense, you can get the same effect even though you're not trying to hurt the person, even if you just go slow. But again, you have to be cognizant of these things. You may be more advanced than that particular student. However, that particular student is going to get a hell of a lot more if you have that idea behind you. So that's training. That's how in the bladed mind we start developing little by little, and then everything else has to have that intent. Because eventually it becomes, okay, now we go back to sticks. We're trying to hit the face, but they're also trying to hit my face, so our sticks keep clashing, okay? Which means now I have to get through that hand first, through that stick, in order to hit the face. So then our intent changes from going to the face, knowing we can't get there, to going for the hand. Attacking that hand, getting rid of that so we can go to the face. Okay, all right, cool. What are the things? Now they know that we're going for the hand because the partner is also training along with us. So now they get savvy and they move their hand out of the way and attack you in different directions, different angles. So now they're growing as well. You're getting better, they're getting better. So your intent has to change. No longer is it, I'm gonna hit the face. Oh no, I'm gonna hit the hand. Oh, the hand's not there. Maybe I'll go for the leg. So they drop the hand so I can attack the hand, so I can attack the head. Oh, maybe I start using my empty hand to grab, to poke, to pull, so I can get a clear shot to the head. Maybe I hit the leg, hit the arm, and then the head. Oh wait, now it's becoming ideas and concepts on how to initialize your intent, how to get to where you're going. It may take 6 steps, it may take 1 if you're that good. But if your focus isn't to get to the end point of it, then will you ever get there? Because eventually, as the levels grow, as people get better, especially in fights, those intents are now weapons. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, say you're fighting somebody, and their mechanics, everything shows that they're gonna go right for your head. So what do? You block, and then you get hit in the stomach, or you get hit in the ribs. Why? Well, some people call that a feint. But in order for a feint to be recognized as such, it needs to have everything that goes along with that actual punch or attack or kick. So much so that your brain will react before it actually knows what's going on and move in the direction that the person wants you to move. Which means that if you get really good at it, you can start getting your opponent to move wherever you need them to move, so then your other attacks are now effective. So they land where you need them to land, where you want them to land. Conversely, another way of using it in higher levels would be the show of no intent whatsoever. In other words, your opponent gets comfortable believing that they are taking care of everything that you are throwing at them, even though they don't realize that what you're throwing is wide open, so they can take care of it. You give them things to deal with, because once they get comfortable, you hit them where you want to, and their brain never sees it coming, and all of a sudden you get that look on their face, and then you can do everything that you intend to do, everything that you want to do to finish that fight. But it's a buildup. It's not something that happens overnight, and not something that you can learn specifically, but rather you feed your brain ideas as you go along. You feed it information throughout your training, but without that initial intent to make contact, whether it's through a punch, whether it's through a stick, whether it's through a kick, your opponent or your training partner, as well as yourself, won't pick up on those nuances. And if you get far long enough in your training without any of that exposure, how much longer will it take for you to finally understand how those moves, how those attacks, how those combinations, how those kicks and punches are really going to affect the person in front of you? Because ultimately, you're only going to use what you train most. And if it's punches and kicks with no understanding of where and when to use them, well, then how useful are they? Instead of having the idea, the concept, or the knowledge of where you want them to be, well, then those punches and kicks can really be anything. They're no longer limited to just the 1 or 2 things that you know, as long as you get the contact, as long as you get the force behind it, as long as you hurt the person in front of you. Because that's what you've been training, that idea of purpose and intent behind everything that you do. And once you understand that, well, then you can move along and change the intent of everything that you do, and have the degree of control to know when and where to use which one. It takes time, it takes effort, but more than anything, it just takes hitting something or someone with whatever move that you're doing. And that doesn't necessarily mean hitting them with malice, especially a training partner. It just means completing what you're doing. Understanding that if you're hitting up here, you're probably not hitting your target. If you're swinging down here at face level, well then even if you don't make contact, you know you're in the right place. And then you develop from there. So, just an idea based on the intent of what this tool was created for, and now you being the weapon, as Danny always says, the intent of you as the weapon, and understanding up here how to better use that weapon, or how to use that weapon more efficiently. That's all, just an idea, concept. Hopefully it helps. Thank you for joining me here on Nain Short. Hopefully we'll be back soon with Konversations. But until then, we're going to continue with Nain Shorts. Till the next one. 3, 2, 1, cut!